Okay, this lesson will actually be a shorter lesson than yesterday's lesson. And this first video, I would love it if you could really pay careful attention to what I'm doing, but I'm going to lose you if you don't really have a good handle of completing the square. Because here's what I'm about to do. I'm about to take this definition of a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and I am about to complete the square on this problem that doesn't have any numbers in it. And so you got to be good at completing the square to see what happens. So the first step to completing the square is making sure the value of a is 1. So I have to divide everything by a. So that's going to give me x squared plus b over ax plus c over a, and then 0 divided by a is 0. So then your next step is to move this c term over. So that gives me x squared plus b over ax equals negative c over a. So your next step is to add the mystery number. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to take half of b over a. So when I take half of b over a, that's b over 2a. So is that my mystery number? No, I have to square it. So when I square the b, I get b squared. When I square the 2, I get 4. When I square the a, I get a squared. So that is what I'm going to add to both sides. B squared over 4a squared. So I'm going to add b squared over 4a squared to the left side and b squared over 4a squared to the right side. Now, sometimes people get a little freaked out about the thought of factoring the left side. This is why, like, if you got really good at completing the square yesterday, you're less freaked out about it. But I know it can look a little weird. Like, what times what gives me x squared, x and x? And what times what gives me b squared over 4a squared. So that's going to be b over 2a and b over 2a. So lo and behold, that's x plus b over 2a squared. Now over here, we have to add two things that have a different denominator. So I need to find a common denominator of 4a squared. Now this guy needs a 4 and an a. So that's going to become negative 4ac. This guy doesn't need anything, so that's going to stay plus b squared. Now, you don't have to do this, but mathematicians tend to flip this numerator around and put b squared and then minus the 4ac all over 4a squared. So now the next step of completing the square is to take the square root of both sides. So the square and the square root cancel each other out. So we have x plus b over 2a equals plus or minus. Now, I hope you remember from last quarter that because this has adding and subtracting in it, you cannot split it up. But now the bottom doesn't have adding and subtracting, and so the square root of 4a squared is 2a. Now at some point very soon the light bulb should be coming on. So now we're going to minus b over 2a. And so we get x equal, and again, see how they have the same denominator? So I'm going to say negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, and boom, you just derived the quadratic formula. That is so cool. All right, so the next video will just be us plugging the numbers in and using the quadratic formula.